At the mining site called Socom Hills, a group of people can be seen finishing their work and starting to leave the area. Among the miners, there is a man named Scudman and his son Eric, who are talking about Eric's colleague who was just fired after having an accident at work. Now, just as the two of them finished talking, Eric was suddenly attacked by a mysterious creature. Scudman tried to save Eric, but unfortunately the creature stabbed him in the throat, paralyzing him, leaving him only able to watch as the bloodied Eric was taken away. Several years later, a tour guide named Ariana gathered various pieces of information about the Socom Hills mine, which had apparently become the site of a horrific incident in the past. It turns out Ariana was deliberately digging up this information because she had recently gotten a job to accompany a group of people on an expedition to the Socom Hills mine.
Hello, Ariana. It's Darren. As possible. So, we are up and ready.
The next day, it turned out that 4 people were planning a trip to Socom Hills. Their names were Darren, who was a scientist, along with his crew Sean, Terry, and Jamie. During the journey, they asked Ariana how many people she had guided to the mining site before. Apparently, since the 1970s, the mining area, including the city of Socom Hills, has no longer appeared on maps, and its population seems to have vanished as well. Many believe that the disappearance of the city is related to a fire in the underground mining center which caused the formation of ruins around the city. This is also what makes Darren convinced that the cause of the fire was triggered by a very rare mineral. On the way, Ariana then decided to stop for a moment at the store to buy some supplies. When entering the store, Ariana took notice of the strange items being sold there. Then she met the shopkeeper and bought some drinking water as well as a bit of coolant for her car. In addition, Ariana also asked about the route to Socom Hills. But as soon as the shop owner heard the name Socom Hills, he immediately fell silent for a moment, as did someone accompanying him who also stopped what they were doing. At first, the shopkeeper chose to pretend not to know anything, but when Ariana insisted, the man instead advised her to leave immediately and never go to that place. After Ariana had departed from the shop, the shopkeeper unexpectedly made a phone call to someone and promptly informed them about the impending trouble that was undoubtedly coming their way. As their journey continued onward, Sean suddenly expressed his deep concern, stating emphatically that they absolutely should not proceed to Socom Hills. In the midst of their argument, Ariana realized that a car had started following them. Growing suspicious, Ariana began to speed up, then took a detour and eventually arrived at a certain place. When they reached a certain point, the car behind them began to slow down. At this moment, Ariana realized that it seemed those people actually wanted to drive them off the route, which led her to conclude that the spot where the car slowed down was exactly where they needed to go. So after they successfully managed to effectively hide themselves, Ariana then started to meticulously retrace their steps back to that precise location, where they subsequently discovered a very narrow, almost hidden road, which was complete with a prominent danger sign, clearly indicating potential hazards. Upon arrival, Ariana and the others found that the area had been fenced off with electric wiring to prevent outsiders from entering. Sean, who found it strange, then asked Darren why there was a place in the middle of nowhere that needed to be blocked off with an electric fence. But before they could get a convincing explanation, Ariana had already managed to get inside by using a nearly fallen tree trunk. Once safely inside, they immediately entered the designated area while diligently collecting various important samples along their entire way. Before the approaching nightfall, Ariana decided to rest peacefully near the flowing river. There, they tried to discuss the Socom Hills mining operation. During the conversation, everyone shared their own theories. Darren shared his detailed theory, saying that perhaps there was a truly giant cavernous hole completely filled with a highly poisonous gas that ultimately caused the widespread destruction in this entire area. But Darren's theory was very different from what Sean believed, as he recounted a similar incident that once happened in Russia, where the Russians managed to create the largest hole in the world, about 1 kilometer deep. However, as a result, the miners ended up hearing terrifying sounds when a microphone was thrown into the hole. Sean believes that the United States may have decided to do something quite similar, where they also created a very similar and significant hole in the Socom Hills area, a region of considerable geological interest. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, 3 mysterious people led by a girl named Shelby came to repair the damaged section of the fence. At first, they thought it was caused by someone breaking in, but after examining the damage, it turned out to have been caused by a creature. While Shelby was talking, one of their friends named C, who was in another part of the forest, was seen inspecting the fence area. Here, he discovered that the fence had been damaged and had fallen around the drainage hole. Since the hole was quite small, Sai tried to get closer, and that's when he started hearing strange noises. Returning to Shelby and her two close friends, this time, they were unexpectedly approached by a mysterious individual who was subsequently revealed to be Scudman, the grieving father who had tragically lost his beloved child at the very beginning of the film, and who, in a surprising turn of events, is actually their clandestine leader. Scudman's presence here was to ask about Ariana and her group, as it turns out that Scudman and the others were still unaware that Ariana's group had entered the area without permission, because as far as they knew, they had already managed to drive that group away. The next day, Ariana and her team continued their journey. As they made their way through the forest, they found some soundproofing foam, something that definitely shouldn't be in the middle of the woods. Then, as they moved forward, they found another giant disposal hole. But before they could investigate it further, the same car that had followed them the day before showed up again, forcing Ariana and the others to hide. After making sure the situation was safe, they left the hole and continued on their way. After walking for some time, they came across a place filled with several abandoned houses. Ariana's group then hurried into a building that looked like an old, abandoned shop. Once inside, they found it completely filled with a thick, swirling fog. While carefully observing everything around her, Ariana noticed a small door at the very back, and when she cautiously opened it, they finally discovered the legendary Socom Hills mine. From there, they moved on and found a giant hole covered with an electrically powered lid. After unplugging the power cable and removing one part of the cover, Terry and Sean lowered a camera to check the depth of the hole. But while doing so, Terry suddenly heard a loud noise that frightened him. Now, as the others tried to listen in as well, Terry's foot accidentally got caught in the camera cable, causing him to fall. Not long after falling, something suddenly pulled him into the hole among the ruins. Worried about Terry's condition, Ariana and Jamie then decided to go down into the hole. Unfortunately, despite searching, the two of them couldn't find anything except mysterious sounds. Meanwhile, on the surface, a man named Del arrived at the location. With an annoyed look on his face, he then pulled out his rifle and gave a stern warning to stay away from the hole. Here, Darren and Sean tried to explain that a member of their team was still trapped inside. But apparently the man didn't seem to care, as he was instead seen cutting one of the ropes in an attempt to close up the hole. In the midst of the confusion, Sean decided to knock the man out with a rock, leaving him unconscious. Inside the hole, Ariana, realizing that her rope had been cut, then told Jamie to climb up using the remaining rope. When they finally got out of the dark hole and immediately saw someone lying completely unconscious, they all quickly decided to swiftly leave the dangerous area using the stranger's abandoned car, even though they were all still confused about what had just happened. On the way, Sean looked very angry and vehemently blamed Darren for his profound obsession with what could be called a truly strange and peculiar expedition. Sean also critically questioned the true identity of the company funding their adventurous endeavor, which he thought made absolutely no sense at all. In the very middle of their heated argument, they unexpectedly ended up hitting a rather deep and significant hole, causing their vehicle to become completely stuck and absolutely forcing them to continue their arduous journey toward the distant fence on foot. That night, Del, who had previously fainted, regained consciousness. Realizing that his car had been stolen, Del quickly called his friends to inform them about the situation.
We have a breach. Come in.
Back to Ariana and her group, who are now in a state of fear after hearing a terrifying sound from a creature lurking in the darkness. They then decide to turn off their flashlights, and Ariana tries to lead her group using night vision. But unfortunately, during this moment, a creature silently launches an attack and quickly captures Sean.
What the fuck was that? Sean! Go!
Ariana, Darren, and Jamie managed to escape, where they then encountered a car driven by Scudman. From there, Scudman then took Ariana and the others to their headquarters. Ariana's group was then brought to a house where they were interrogated by Scudman. Now, when Darren heard the name Scudman, he was momentarily surprised because he realized that Scudman used to be one of the founders of the Socom Hills Mining Company. However, despite that, for Scudman, all of that is just a story from the past because now he is responsible for the safety of everyone in this place. Scudman admitted that people's perceptions of this mining site vary greatly. Some consider this mine to be a terrifying pit, while others see it as purgatory or a cleansing fire. Unfortunately, before he could explain in more detail, Shelby received a message over the radio about news of several monsters that had spread throughout the area. Even though they were still filled with curiosity, Ariana and her group could only obey Scudman's orders when he told them to leave immediately and seal up the hole they had previously opened. Not long after they got out, Shelby received a report that those creatures were now everywhere. Upon learning this, Shelby's friend named Elroy then sacrificed himself in an attempt to distract the creatures, allowing Ariana and her group to hide inside a house. While trying to stay calm, Shelby explained that these creatures are highly attracted to sound. In addition, they also have strange tentacles that can paralyze a person upon contact. Unfortunately, while they were keeping watch on their surroundings, one of the creatures entered the house, forcing Ariana and the others to try to avoid it. They managed to escape after finding an underground tunnel beneath the floor of the house. In the midst of their escape, Shelby decided to separate from Ariana's group in order to distract the creatures. From there, Ariana, Darren, and Jamie quickly ran toward the excavation site. But on the way, they ended up encountering several of the creatures. In his attempt to hold off the monster, Jamie tried to use a grenade, but just as he was about to throw it, one of the creatures intercepted him, causing the grenade to fall. With only Ariana and Darren left, Darren, feeling guilty, then admitted that his expedition here was for money and that the company paying him was a private company very interested in what was inside the Socom Hills mine. That's why, from the very beginning, Darren was extremely enthusiastic and eager to discover this mine. Then, even though the situation was unfavorable, Ariana reluctantly decided to continue the journey alone. This was because Darren seemed to have lost the will to even stand up. However, here, Ariana still promised Darren that she would come back to save him. Meanwhile, on the surface, Scudman and his team were now preparing to face a group of creatures trying to break through the perimeter fence. On the other hand, Ariana is desperately trying to escape from the creatures that are now chasing her. She gets out of the tunnel and hides after hearing terrifying noises, but just as she thinks the coast is clear, Ariana is ambushed by one of the creatures. A short while later, Ariana regains consciousness to find herself on a boat, which, strangely enough, is being steered by a creature along with Shelby's lifeless body. Unfortunately, Ariana is discovered and knocked unconscious again, and several hours later she wakes up next to Darren, who has also been captured, as well as Sean, who is in critical condition. When approached by one of the creatures, Sean explains that they are extremely rare beings who reproduce and form colonies much like ants or bees. After that, Sean's body is dragged away and taken to the Queen of the Monsters, who without any hesitation devours Sean alive. When it is Ariana's turn, fortunately Darren still manages to hand her a grenade he found nearby. Ariana manages to grab it just before she is taken away, and when she comes face to face with the Queen, Ariana quickly shoves the grenade into the creature's mouth. From there, the two of them take advantage of the opportunity to escape. They finally managed to reach the drainage hole that they had previously destroyed. Using a rope, the two of them began to climb out, but now a horde of creatures could be seen chasing after them and trying to climb up as well. In order to save Ariana, Darren then chose to cut the rope, allowing Ariana to slowly make her way out. Once she reached the top, she was helped by the shop owner from earlier, who had apparently arrived together with Scudman and his team, all of whom were ready with their weapons. The very next day, Scudman, a determined and resolute figure, escorted Ariana back to her waiting car. Before she could even think of leaving, Scudman solemnly told her that those monstrous creatures had tragically killed his beloved son, a devastating loss, which is precisely why, ever since that terrible day, he has been relentlessly fighting to take his rightful revenge on all those vile and destructive monsters. Scudman then bravely offered Ariana the significant chance to stay and join him in the ongoing arduous war against those malevolent and dangerous creatures. At first, Ariana seemed hesitant as she got out of Scudman's vehicle, but after reflecting on everything she had been through, Ariana changed her mind and returned to Scudman's car. That was the captivating storyline of the chilling horror film The Devil Below, a truly terrifying movie that was widely released in the year 2021. I sincerely hope that you thoroughly enjoyed our intriguing story today. Alright then, I will now take my leave and look forward to seeing you all again next time. You guys are absolutely awesome and truly appreciated.